Hello again. Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to preview Texas A&M for 2025. Chase, interesting season ahead for the Aggies, who found an identity in year one under Mike Elko, actually led the SEC in scoring offense in conference game. A lot of guys back. I think that's one hallmark of this roster when you compare to other teams. Mike Elko gets a lot of the dudes back who played for him, probably more than most other teams. I'm kind of intrigued to see what the Aggies have this year. I feel like a good year could be coming.
You know, Chris, as I've been kind of keeping an eye on all these teams in the off season and looking at their rosters, and again, a lot of this kind of before transfer portal and guys moved around, and I kept seeing A&M pick up guys, especially some receivers, some guys on defense, and I thought, okay, like they're putting together a roster here. But I still was not really, I don't know, I kind of felt like Texas A&M kind of a middle of the pack SEC team. But the more I've spent the last couple of days getting ready to do this, I've listened to Coach Elko from media days, a couple of the players. The more I break down this roster and look closely at it, Chris, I really like what A&M has. I'm impressed with what they've put together. Impressed with the roster that they have. I think the coaching staff has grown since last year. You know, you think back to a year ago, Chris, when they started 7-1 and then finished the season 1-4. It was a drastic change, and I think that was a good learning experience, not only for Marcel Reed and the players, but for Mike Elko and the coaching staff as well, to try to figure out how they can finish stronger, because they started good, they finished bad. I'm really excited about this season for Texas A&M. They're a really interesting team to me, because I think they're one. And look, last year too, Chris, we were talking towards the end of the season, we thought if they beat Texas A&M is going to Atlanta and play for the SEC championship.
Yeah.
That's what kind of season it was last year, and so they're really intriguing to me. I think it could be a good year for Texas A&M. And look, it wouldn't surprise me. I feel like they are on the cusp of that top level SEC team the more I look at this roster.
Yeah, I'm looking at Athlon, and it says in its final analysis, the first sentence is, the Aggies are typically a good but not great team. And I think that's pretty fair, depending on where you set the bar between good and great. But here's the thing. I think good is their floor this year. Yeah, I really do. I think I don't see this being a bad team unless something crazy happens, like where you saw at Oklahoma, where they, the roster went Old Testament at offensive line and receiver, and they had nobody left. But yeah, I think, and I'll tell you what I like. There's an identity. First of all, this is year 2 under Mike Elko. Jimbo Fisher just grew stale around there. I guess that's probably the nicest way to put it. And that whole program needed a reboot. Maybe it needed more discipline. Paul Feinbaum called Mike Elko the smartest coach in the league at media days last week. And I don't know if that's right or not, but it indicates someone who knows SEC football has a pretty high opinion of him. He was pretty well regarded at Duke. And we're going to talk offense first. And one of the first places I always start is offensive line. I know it's not the most exciting thing to discuss, but you look, they've got a left tackle who could be an all-conference guy in Trey Zuhn, who started all 13 games a year ago. Inside, they've got a guard in Chase Bisontis, who could also be an all-SEC first or second team type guy, 10 starts a year ago. Inside at center, Mark Nabou, who started, I think, the opener, then got hurt. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce his backup's name, but it's spelled Faalu. He started 11 games a year ago. You move to the right side. Demetrius Crownover started all 13 games at right tackle. Armaj Reed-Adams, inside at right guard, started all 13 games and was a Lindy's first team All-American. Like, that is 3 of your 5 guys that are getting preseason high-level all-conference love or better. You've got 2 experienced guys at center, and you've got 2 guys at right tackle who are very experienced too on the roster last year. Like, you don't look at many rosters and they're too deep go, hey, they got 10 dudes coming back.
No, yeah,
that may be unique in the country. And if you're looking for continuity and guys to create holes for what they want to do, and boy, we know what they want to do, it's run the football. I love that as a start.
Oh, for sure. And you went where I was going to go. Like, I think we can look, when it comes to offensive line for Texas A&M, we can look past the SEC. This is, on paper, this is one of the best offensive lines in the country, and they should be in performance as well. You mentioned these guys. I mean, they're all American type guys who they've got plenty of them, and that's where it all starts. I mean, is up front on the offense. You mentioned they've got loads of running talent that we'll get to in a little bit, but that offensive line is stout, and if they can stay healthy, they are going to do some damage this year. And so I think that is a really bright spot for this Texas A&M team, especially with their offensive philosophy, is to and again, a couple of those guys were transfers in. So I think that's big too, to have these guys healthy, to have these guys be able to step up, come back from injury, and play their part on the offensive line. That's a really exciting part. If you're a Texas A&M fan, be excited of what you have up front, and the depth. You mentioned that too. The depth up front is huge as well.
Yeah, and running the football is where they're going to want to go. They got maybe the best skill player on their offense back. I mean, you could debate that that's a transfer receiver. We'll get into that in just a minute. But Le'Veon Moss was really the engine that made them go. He got hurt late last year, 6.3 yards a carry, 10 touchdowns, catches a pass here and there. And then they got three guys behind him who were also guys that carried the ball a decent amount. Amari Daniels, almost 5 yards a carry, 661 yards. Reuben Owens was a very highly touted back last year, didn't do much for them. I think was hurt. And then E.J. Smith, who I think transferred from Stanford 2 years ago, and had been kind of we don't really have third down backs in college football, but that's kind of what he was at Stanford from what I remember. He carried the ball a little bit more at A&M as opposed to catching passes, but that's like a thing in your back pocket you've got if you need a change of pace. And then at quarterback, Marcel Reed was not the starter going into the year, and I think the passing is maybe the question there, but he averaged over 4.5 yards a carry and carried a lot. Like, you see Tennessee in particular. Now, Tennessee did it last year with a bell cow running back, but Tennessee's kind of done it with a committee of runners and a quarterback who can run. I'm not saying it's the same offense, but I see some similarities there just in exerting an identity with some guys that can do it, and plenty of them. I mean, they've got depth a lot of places, and I really like that.
No, you're exactly right. Le'Veon Moss was so much fun to watch last year. You hated watching him go down with injury, but 765 yards, as you mentioned. He missed those 5 games, though, due to injury, so there's no telling what he could have done if he had a full season. You got depth at running back is huge, because obviously you don't want to put it all on Le'Veon Moss, and you can't. You have to be ready for anything, and I think having Reuben Owens and Amari Daniels behind him, E.J. Smith back there as well. So they've got plenty of depth at running back, and I think that's where it starts offensively. And especially, I feel like, because again, Marcel Reed he didn't play the full season last year. Connor Wigman, of course, started the year. Then we saw Marcel Reed. And so now it's going to be kind of his first full season. I think it's good, and he's got great receivers. We'll get to them in a minute. But as far as running backs go, for Marcel Reed to have these guys next to him that he knows they're powerful runners, he knows the offensive line can block ahead of them. I feel like that's such a good place to start on this offense, especially as Marcel Reed gets his feet under him again, new season, under the bright lights of the starting quarterback in College Station. He has got some powerful running backs next to him that can help lead the way to start things off.
Yeah, and year two in the system too, I
Yeah.
think certainly helps, and it's going to help everybody. But I think you're high on that receiving group. Kevin or Casey Concepcion, depending on who's calling him what, is the guy they got from NC State who had a big drop off in production from 2 years ago for an NC State team that was very disappointing. I'm going to say that probably was more on the team than it was on Concepcion. They get Craver from Mississippi State, and a lot of depth they get back that was on the roster last year, but maybe not major producers. And then the tight end room too. I know Theo Milan-Ostrom's a guy that they've been high on, a foreign-born guy who hasn't really put up huge numbers. What do you make of their receiving targets?
I think that they have added a lot of speed when they add Concepcion and Craver. And I think that's the biggest thing, because we saw a lack of big plays last year from Texas A&M, and adding those two guys, their route running ability, their speed, I think will help with that big play for the Aggies. And Marcel Reed has the arm to find them. But I really like Concepcion, and you mentioned he had a little bit of a drop-off last year. That had to do with the team, and also I think he was battling some injuries here and there. And so I think putting him in this offense is going to benefit him, as will Mario Craver. But the speed of those guys is really what stands out to me, Chris. And when you have the run game that A&M has, the speed there, when you have the speed at receiver that they have, and Marcel Reed at quarterback, there's just so much speed on this offense. And then you add a guy like Amari Niblack, transfer from Alabama, in there to at the tight end position. I think that he was at Texas last year, Alabama before that. I think adding a guy like him also in that tight end room will be huge, because he's made some big plays in his career as well. So I think the speed that they have, especially that receiver position, really good targets there for Marcel Reed.
Yeah, good point on Niblack. He was a pretty talented guy at Alabama. I think they had maybe some competition for targets, and he did never become, I think, maybe what we both thought he would become. But that's a good call, because that's another piece. I think this is just kind of an offense where they have a lot of pieces. There may not be a superstar in there, but you couple that with the offensive line, and you kind of like what they have. I want to talk defense in a minute, because I think there's a lot of interesting things with Mike Elko going back to culling that side of the ball after the bowl performance, and some leaks in the running defense last year. Maybe are things that got his attention. But before we do, help out those who help the show. That is Game Time Sidekicks, GameTimeSidekicks.com. Every morning, Chase, I start my day with two mugs. One of them is the 40-ounce one that I put my water in to make sure that I'm hydrated. I will put ice in this thing in the morning. And well into the afternoon, the ice is still solid. I've got my morning caffeine. I throw my tea in here. Jay Greason throws his coffee in here. It's got a lid. I've got a straw bin in there. This one actually comes with a metal straw that's really durable. These things are beautiful. They are works of art. I mean, if you go and get one of the Game Time Sidekicks mugs, and my goodness, they've got all kinds of them, it's going to catch somebody's eye. If you win a title, your team wins a title, like LSU did in baseball, they make specialty ones for that too. So the construction of this is unbeatable. It's stainless steel. It retains your ice. It looks great. It catches people's eye. Don't just get one. Get 3 or 4. Get one for your dad. Get one for yourself. Get one for your caffeine. Get one from your water. GameTimeSidekicks.com. Use promo code SE16 and you'll get 20% off your order, and you'll be glad you did. Chase, defense. Mentioned the problems before that they had there, but A&M's got some studs on that side of the ball. Albert Regis up front is a good one. Again, common theme here. A lot of guys returning, not necessarily guys that were superstars, but guys who played a lot for them. But they do have superstars too. Tarian York, one of the better linebackers in college football. Will Lee, one of the better corners in the SEC. They've got some pieces just about everywhere on this team. I think pass rush is a thing that is going to be a concern. Last year, I remember Shamar Stewart talking about he was going to lead the country in sacks. They had other guys up there. That never really materialized, but I'm interested to see the effect of Elko taking over that side of the ball and what he can do.
Yeah, that's got to be the priority this year. I think they're set up on offense. Defense has got to be better. I mean, you look. I talked about A&M's offense struggled with big plays. A&M's defense gave up big plays left and right. They ranked 13th in the SEC last year in pass defense. It was a struggle, and so they've upgraded their coverage back there. They brought in Jordan Shaw from Washington. They brought in Julian Humphrey from Georgia, and so and those are just a couple. They've added some other pieces in there as well defensively. Yeah, to upgrade there on that side of the ball, and I think that's probably the most important thing to do, because I think back to their Las Vegas bowl game against USC where they were up by 17, and USC came back and won the game. And I remember listening to Mike Elko in his post-game press conference, just talking about the defense and all the issues that they had. Because look, you mentioned it, he knows defense. That guy is a great defensive mind, and so I think that's where they need the most work. You mentioned Shamar Stewart saying he was going to lead the country in sacks. There wasn't anybody on the team who had more than 2.5 sacks last year. That's got to change up front. So I think whether it's pass defense, run defense was an issue too. I think they allowed more 20-yard runs or something than any other team in the country. I don't have that in front of me. But they've got to do some. They've got to do some work on the defensive side of the ball, and I think again they've done a good job of bringing guys in who can do that. It's execution now. Like we've got to see them stop the big play. We have got to see them stop the run, stop these big long runs. If they shape up defensively, it's going to be a different story, because you look at what they did in that 7-1 start to the season. Defense played all right. The last part where they were 1-4, the defense was just giving up big play after big play, big run. They lost the intensity and the momentum defensively in the last part of the season. They've got to keep that up the whole time. And again, they've upgraded their coverage with a lot of these transfers they brought in, but still they've got to sustain great defensive play all season long in the SEC.
Yeah, two things. We mentioned Shamar Stewart. As we're doing this, he's having a contract dispute, and he is the last unsigned guy. There's some talk that he could actually come back to A&M. I think he could actually do that legally. Wow. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't, but it has been all over the news this week. I know you were on vacation last week and missed some of that, so didn't mean to mention his name and earlier, just kind of brought it up, but yeah, that's one thing. Like if they get Shamar Stewart to this defense, then look out. 13th pick of the NFL draft. The other thing, Chase, is there's some intriguing things on this defense. Like they get their corners back. Des Ricks started across from Will Lee, played 13 games. Julian Humphrey was a big deal at Georgia when he signed. It just never quite panned out. I think there's a kid that had a lot of potential. I don't know why. I don't know if a reset with the different scenery maybe helps him, but keep an eye on that. And Scooby Williams has played a lot of ball too. Like, again, there's an unusual number of guys who are coming back, on that depth chart, both sides of the ball. So I'm kind of interested in that. I think the schedule for them is going to be interesting. Before we get into that, a shout out to our other partner, Rockform. If you're sick of going to Amazon every 3 or 4 months and ordering new phone cases and screen protectors like I've done, they're your answer. It is high-end stuff, ROKFORM.com. They've got golf accessories. I mean, I just sent an order for I don't even know how many things, because that's so many things that you need that you don't know surrounding your devices, which are expensive, and you want to protect them. Trust our partners at Rockform to take care of your stuff so it can take care of you. ROKFORM.com is where you go to order. Okay, the schedule. They should start 2-0, UTSA and a pretty bad Utah State team. And then a very interesting road trip to Notre Dame, Chase. before they get into the schedule. That one went down to the wire a year ago. That'll be one of your big games of week 3.
Oh, yeah, most certainly. And, it's interesting to me. This is the game that started the season last year. They played in College Station week 1, Mike Elko's first game, all the buzz around it. It's week 3 this year. And so you get a chance to get those first couple of games, kind of learn a little bit more about your team, see what you have. And so I think that favors A&M more, being able to play a couple of games before you make that trip up to play Notre Dame. But yeah, that one definitely one to circle week 3. And then, of course, that open date there before SEC play starts.
Yeah, I think the conference schedule a little bit more middle of the road. I look at the front and the back ends. Like, they get Mississippi State. In addition, they get that at home. State is probably going to be your team 16 in this league. They get Texas, which could be the number 1 team in the country, but that's at home. So you get maybe debatably the best and the worst team in the conference. And then I think it's about average in the middle. You avoid Georgia, you avoid Alabama, but you do get LSU. You do get a Florida team that could be resurgent. You get a South Carolina team that's always good. I think you get Arkansas, which is potentially one of the bottom teams in the league. Maybe the same with Auburn. I think that Auburn's talent is good, but I just don't know about Hugh Freeze. So I look at this and I feel like they got a little bit of the top, but it could have been worse. You could have drawn Georgia or Alabama, got a little bit of the bottom, and got a lot of teams in the middle. Missouri in there too, which I think is maybe a little bit underrated. But when I look at this, I've got a model that I've kind of done between FPI and SP Plus, and just kind of use it to the point spreads. And interestingly enough, they're only going to be an underdog outright according to this in 3 games. That's Notre Dame. This has them about a 7-point underdog, about a 5.5-point dog at LSU, and then about a 7-point dog to Texas at home. Other than that, they should be favored to win these games, although a lot of single-digit spreads in there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And, I think this is a very manageable schedule. You mentioned there's some tough teams on there, but again, what I said at the top, Chris, I think A&M can be more towards a top-level team than maybe we were thinking after last season into the offseason. Just the more I break this team down and look at this roster and what they put together, I think they're trending very much in the right direction. They've been in kind of that 8-win slump, if you will. Now, that's not a bad slump to be at. 8 wins, that's good, but they've averaged 8 wins ever since they joined the conference in 2012. And you want to see more than that, and I think this is a team that can get over that 8-win hump at Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think that Notre Dame game is key for them, because if they win that one, they're probably 3-0 at that point. They've got an off week. They then go Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, all at home, I believe, and then go to Arkansas. This is a team that could be 7-0. Heading into a road trip at LSU. At that point, if that's the case, if they beat Notre Dame to do all that, which is a big if, but not an impossible ask, at that point, they are odds on to make the playoff.
Yeah, I think so. I think they could be one of the SEC teams in if they're able to do that. And it wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
All right, Chase, any parting thoughts on the Aggies that we didn't get to?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think there's a lot of reason for optimism if you're a Texas A&M fan. Mike Elko, year 2, there's always a big difference from year 1 to year 2, and I think they're trending in the right direction under Mike Elko.
Yeah, I do too. Can't wait to see how it shapes out for the Aggies. Think they could be a dark horse contender for the SEC title. I know that's a sentiment that's shared a lot of places. Still think they're off that top tier, which I consider to be Alabama, Georgia, Texas in some order, but I think they're right there with LSU, and some would disagree with me on LSU. Some would have LSU in that top tier, but I think they're both right there in that next group of teams that might have a shot. We'll be here to follow the Aggies all season. If you know, we cover SEC baseball, basketball, and football at the channel. If you got this far, do us a favor. If you've not subscribed to the channel, please do that. That helps our analytics, and it costs you nothing. Leave us a thumbs up in the video. That also helps us get noticed. And if you like the preview, leave us a comment. Tell us what you liked. If we missed something, Tell us what you didn't like. Anyway, for Chase Robinson and Chris Lee, you're watching our football content here at Southeastern 16. Thanks for watching. God bless you. We'll see you again soon with more of it.